Welcome to the podcast. It starts with you, with me, Vic O'Farrell. I ask my guests, by understanding their own behaviours and personality style, what impact on their lives, both personally and professionally, has there been? What is it like to live and work with someone of your style? I mean, this is not about labelling people, putting people in boxes, or an excuse for bad behaviour. It's about recognising, understanding and respecting that we're all different. And what impact can you have on others by looking in the mirror? Because it starts with you. So, hello, wherever you're listening or watching this too, and welcome to another episode of It Starts With You. And today I am joined by the wonderful Cat Williams. Now, Kat, before I introduce you, or even rather than me introduce you, why let me hand over to you so that you can tell the listeners or viewers, wherever they're watching or listening to, what you do, who you are, where you come from. That sounded a bit like a Cilla Black introduction, but over to you, Kat.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Vicky. So I specialise in confidence. So I'm from Building Your Confidence, just registered as a limited company recently. And so I bring in lots of elements there based around 5 pillars, actually. So they spell the word build. So the be self-aware part is I support people with mental health issues, with discovering the root cause really of those issues. The U is about utilising your strengths, which I know we're going to talk more about. The I is about I'm okay, you're okay. So I'm also a relationship therapist. I support people with bringing out the best in themselves and others in their relationships. The L is lead your mind. So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist as well, all about understanding the power of the subconscious mind, how it can a lot of the time get in our own way rather than help us. And then the D is develop your voice. So I support people with that number one fear in our society is apparently a fear of public speaking. So I help people with what the stories they have to tell and how to stand up and tell them confidently. So that's me specialising in confidence.
Wow, that's amazing. And, whilst people sit there thinking that I'm confident, I can say that I haven't always been throughout my life, but we need people like you in this world. So in terms of understanding personalities and behaviors, you obviously do have done a lot of work on yourself. So what does it mean and what impact has it had on you, both personally and professionally, to understand what it means to be able to read other people's behaviors as well as understand your own?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a quick story if that's okay. So
Yeah.
I first came across, I use a tool called Strength Scope, which is about strength psychology. And I just came across it and thought, that sounds interesting. What's that? So I went along to the training, a chap called Graham, nice tall guy, grey hair. And he said, welcome to strength psychology. It's all about discovering your innate natural energizers and personality strengths. And he said, introduce why, yourselves and why you're here. So I said, well, Graham, I'm here because I work with people of all ages, and I know the number one issue is not feeling good enough. That can be that root cause of then leading to lots of other, I call protector parts, like anxiety and people pleasing and things are actually trying to protect us in some way. So I said, that's why I'm here, to kind of get to that root cause and help people to feel confident and know that they're enough. And then Graham said, yes, okay, that's lovely, Kat, but why are you here just for you? And what you were saying there, Vicky, about, not always being confident, I was really struck in that moment and sort of thought, okay, a goal, a desire just for me that I'm holding myself back from, basically. And so I sort of thought, gosh, Graham, I've never really been asked that. I'm just back from, we're a military family. We just moved back from Canada, had 2 small children. My husband was away again with the army, buying a house, building a business. But I said, you know what, Graham, there is something. I love making a difference one-to-one with people, but I'm not sure I could ever be a good enough speaker to make a difference one-to-many, because I was given a fear of public speaking as a teenager. Won't go into how it came in, but I wanted. So my strengths came out that day, and they're enthusiasm, resilience, empathy, compassion, persuasion, creativity, and flexibility. Those are my top 7 in this tool. And Graham said, life-changing moment, and I kid you not, he said, Kat, if those aren't the strengths of the kind of speaker you can be, I don't know what is. You already have what it takes to be that kind of speaker. And if you're being yourself at your best, that's what people are going to engage with. And so I was kind of, what? I already have what it takes. So that's the difference it's made to me personally and professionally, as well as then having this more awareness of the different personalities in my family, what I bring, and what my husband brings, and all of that. So in both areas of my life, huge difference.
That gave me goosebumps, actually. That, I mean, and that is amazing. I think when, like you say, if you had a fear of speaking one to many from a limiting belief that came from somewhere, again, this isn't therapy. We're not going to explore that.
I
But
can.
the fact,
It's from a teacher. It was from a teacher who told me, don't go for head girl, Cat. I said, I want to go for head girl. And she said, I'm not really sure you've got what it takes. The head girl has to speak in assembly, speak in church at Christmas. I think they're more looking for someone like Caroline. That was my form teacher that had known me 5 years. And if she says to me, you haven't got what it takes, I believe her. I'm 15. Why wouldn't you? So that was one of the, that's not the only one, but that's one of those moments that I didn't realize until under hypnosis. So I was like, hang on a minute. I'd kind of forgotten about that, but my subconscious system has never forgotten about that. I don't believe I have what it takes to be heard and to be taken seriously. So I was holding myself back from doing it. And I didn't really know why.
oh, that's quite deep because I mean, I had limiting beliefs from, again, careers teachers who told me I'd come to nothing because I speak too much, talk too much, never speak. It was always because I talk too much. I mean, hot diggity damn, talking was not something you could tick a box for when we were at school. I don't even know if it isn't something now. But when you just said then about your subconscious system, so you were told that maybe once by this head teacher,
Yeah.
and is it, how does that end up in your subconscious if you only hear it once? And how does it impact you and manifest itself all the time?
Because in that moment, your subconscious mind only kind of works in that moment. And at that age, because it goes in as a fact, it lodges there. And then because we have this negativity bias, our subconscious mind only has one job. It is not interested in making us happy, successful, any of that. It's just interested in keeping us alive and safe. So if it picks up this belief, oh, if you do something that you've just been told is somehow threatening for you, because if you're not good at it, what if you're humiliated? What if you fail? What if you're rejected? So it just comes in as like, oh. So then you look for more evidence. You then don't do it. You end up with, I'm going to share with you in a minute, this looping self-fulfilling. So everything
Yeah.
starts with a thought. So now another story that I tell, I won't tell all of it, but I then was given another opportunity to go to have a gap year actually in Africa. And I knew I'd have to give a presentation, but I did have this thought, I can't do it. And if I hadn't gone for that and I'd backed out, that feeling I then had was anxiety and procrastination. I wasn't going to write the thing because I didn't really want to do it because I didn't believe I could do it. Then if my behavior from those emotions had been actually, I'm not even going to go for the interview, that would have reconfirmed the original thought, I'm not good enough and I can't do anything that involves presenting or public speaking. So you gather more evidence as soon as that little thought goes in. And if you're not aware of it, which you usually isn't, what it becomes is this fact over time that you don't know where it began. And then you're just like, oh, I don't do that. I don't speak in public. No, I can't do that. Why not? Oh, I don't really know, really. I just never have. Well, you never have because you didn't take the opportunities, and you didn't take the opportunities because you ended up in a pattern.
And that's really powerful when you talk about the infinity. So just remind me, it's the things that you think is how
Yeah,
you
so
makes you
it's
feel.
self-fulfilling thought loop. So everything begins with a thought. Everything is energy. And the only energy we actually can control is the power of our thoughts, because our feelings and behaviors follow our thoughts. So whatever you're thinking, like I'm not good enough, basically, will lead to a feeling. And that feeling is kind of, well, anxiety, like I say, procrastination, overwhelm. Then the behavior will be, I'm going to avoid it, I'm not going to plan it, or I'm going to back out. And that reconfirms the thought, I knew I wasn't good enough, I knew I couldn't do it. So they're self-fulfilling.
And could you simply just the thoughts, when people say that you've got a positive mindset or a negative mindset, how does that work in that infinity? So if I always like to think that I have a positive outlook, that I always, whatever happens to me, even if it's something that's perhaps negative, I will take a positive out of that situation. I will learn something from that, as opposed to go, oh, well, that was negative. I've got to be careful what I say and not swear on this because it's for all audiences. But if something like I don't know, say I made a cup of tea and I spilt the milk or something silly like that, and I think negative things about, like, oh damn that, and what, as opposed to, oops, better pour another one. It just simple things
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
positive rather than a negative. Does that impacts our feelings and our behaviors?
Yeah. The power of language is huge. So certainly you can shift consciously to a more, and that's what I talk about in schools and things. So I literally get all of my clients to write the most negative, horrible thoughts on the one side and then literally flip them over. What is the exact opposite? I am enough. I have got what it takes. I've got incredible coping strategies. My record for getting through difficult times is 100%. I have everything I need within me, and that's why I love the strengths tool and the behavioral approach, because it's literally saying we're equal but different. You have what it takes, you do it in your way, and you be yourself, and whatever you want, you can achieve it by playing to your strengths or by being your natural best self. So you can absolutely flip that. I think the only time that the subconscious really comes in and prevents that, I do always say to people, you can't logic away something that is subconscious and emotionally driven. So you can logic a lot of stuff away, kind of feel the fear, do it anyway. But sometimes this life-saving job that this subconscious mind believes it doing will just go, not that, not that. And so I'm always asking people, if what would you want to be free from that is holding you back, because that won't shift. Usually you can't logic that away. You can't think it away because it's this subconscious that's been there since you were however old. You don't really know the root cause. That's really hard to get underneath that and take it out.
And is that where you would do something like hypnotherapy to help people understand
That's
those
exactly what
behaviors?
the rapid transformational therapy is, the hypnotherapy that I'm trained in. And it's designed to do it. Most people come for just a 2-hour session. And because it's laser focused, and if they arrive going, yes, like that's what I want to be free from, procrastination or an inner critical voice or catastrophizing or anxiety or, kind of overwhelm, taking on too much, not being able to say no, people pleasing. If they've named it, it's like, right, let's laser focus, find where that began. And then it will shift, because this is my favorite part of the session. It has no idea how old you are now. It comes from a theory called the body keeps the score, which is to do with trauma, really. And so if it begins at a certain age, you literally sort of speak to it and say, how long have you been there? Oh, I've been here since you were 6. How old do you still think I am? 6. And that's when it suddenly goes, well, if I still think you're 6, but actually you're 42, I'm not relevant. I'm not needed. I've been saving your life because I thought you were, vulnerable. And I thought you needed to still please your parents. So I thought you needed to, not speak up in class because the teacher's horrible. And then it goes, oh, if I'm not relevant, I'm just going to go. And it leaves. You know,
Wow, that's powerful.
it's really cool. Yeah. I love it. It sounds like but it really is magical. I just love that moment. That's my favorite moment, when you go, how old does it still think you are? And the client goes, oh Lord, still thinks I'm 8. And it's like, there's the epiphany. Do you need it anymore? Are you 8? No. Okay, gone.
Wow. That is really fascinating stuff, because you're talking about the fact that the subconscious mind has, like you say, just one function, to keep us alive and keep us safe.
Mhm.
But we get so many of these limiting beliefs in our behavioral system from such an early age. And even if we're 50, 60, 70, we can still get rid of them, because they
Yes,
can still travel with us. Okay.
yes, absolutely. And I do work with people of all ages, and so a lot of people always sort of say, I wish I knew to come earlier, but I was like, you've come now. The best days are yet to come, whenever you've come now. And that, you control the future. So yes.
And whilst you see this in the strengths, do you see different personalities react differently to their limiting beliefs?
Well, and if I don't answer this question, remind me of exactly what you're saying there, because what I would say is different personalities usually come up with different protector parts. So in
Okay.
the system that I use, and I think you use a similar one, the blues are natural thinkers.
Hmm.
So I will know based on what they come to me with, and then I will do their strengths analysis as well. I send them an intake form and a sort of strength psychology assessment form. So I'm already knowing that a natural thinker is likely, their issue is like, I want to be free from overthinking. I want to be free from catastrophizing. I want to be free from perfectionism, which is detail orientation, and overdrive is perfectionism. So that is an innate strength. But in overdrive, when they felt unsafe, like not good enough, not understood, not cared about, or whatever it might be, they've gone to their natural energizers. And then in overdrive, they're hurting them and not helping them. Because this subconscious mind makes an invisible cage that says, I'm keeping you safe. And then once you understand it, you go, no, 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 you're keeping me stuck. Perfectionism and catastrophizing is not really helping me. It's keeping me stuck and it's annoying. It's holding me back. And so
Mm.
the other one I find most common, if I'm really honest, would be more the relational strengths. Like we were chatting just before we started. A lot of my clients very naturally empathetic, compassionate. And then if they're kind of manipulated really because of that, they care a lot about helping people and doing the right thing. They'll start to learn as children or teenagers, that person's just been horrible to me. It must be my fault. What did I do or not do that made them behave like that? Oh, now I have to be different and I'm not good enough and I need to try and people please. Again, people pleasing is a protector part based on the fact that as a child you're not safe unless you please your peers or your parents or your teachers, and that becomes this strategy. But again, if as soon as I see people pleasing or an inner critical voice or low self-esteem, I think they're probably a relational person. They've done everything they can to please other people and blame themselves.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm.
and that sounds like it's susceptible to, I think we spoke about this previously, didn't we? Other people being narcissistic behaviors towards them, that they're more susceptible to it.
Yes, because manipulative, narcissistic people want that supply, they want that control. And the only people they can really take that from easily are the people that are willingly giving
People pleasing.
empathy, compassion, and yeah. So, and that becomes this horrible, abusive relationship that a lot of people don't realize that they're in because they're
Mm.
blaming themselves and thinking, is it just me? Am I making it up? Oh, he needs me or she needs me, and it's not their fault. And they are
So,
playing.
so talk to me about some of the successes that you've had. And I know obviously client confidentiality, you can't name names. I mean, is there anything that you've done perhaps in your family that you would happily share with this? Because you said you moved around a lot. I mean, what impact did that have on your children?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think what I've noticed since we think about the sort of four clusters of strengths, so the emotional strengths, that would be more my son in the tool I use would be the green. So he's quite laid back, quite just takes things in his stride. And so realizing that has helped me to understand him more because I'm quite energetic, people orientated, quite a go, and I'm kind of but he's actually just wants time to process things in a more of a green way, as I would call it. My daughter's much more the thinking. She likes a plan, she likes a structure, she likes to break problems down, critical thinking, kind of strategic mindedness. So that's what she's like. So she, with all the change, she doesn't really like change. And if we are going to have to change something, what's the plan? When's it going to happen? I need notice, Whereas my son's like, yeah, okay. I couldn't remember what you said anyway. Where are we going today? Not bothered. Whereas my husband's an army officer, very more the kind of, it's purple actually in my strength scope, but red is often in a similar tool. And he's kind of the executor, he just wants to get it done, make a decision, move on. And I'm the kind of yellow. My prime example would be if we're going on holiday through an airport, Freddie can't remember where we're going or what's going on. He's still what time it is. Just Ailish is there with a list, like the suitcase, beautifully packed. Roddy's with the kind of right, I know exactly where we need to be and when. And I'm the one saying, well, if you've got a problem, I'm just going to ask someone, the quickest way to, I'll just chat to somebody. They'll probably know we're going over there. So we've got the four different areas in our family.
I was about to say you've got all four in the family, so that must
Yeah.
be understanding. So assuming you talk to your children about all of this, so that they all know where they fit in, that
Yeah,
you can then all work to.
straight with each other. Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's the thing, isn't it? We need a blend, and we always talk about diversity in the workplace and stuff like that. And we do need a blend of different styles to actually get a job done, not just in the workplace, but at home as well. If you are like you say, holiday planning. We can't all be in charge of what we're doing, but some of us need to be in charge of the fun bits, the okay, you can do the days out. What are we doing? You
Yeah.
can be the right, how are we getting there? What times? And that kind of logistics. You can do logistics, you can do fun. You can do make sure that it's suitable for everyone. All of those different things, isn't it?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I actually let people plan a different day each as well to meet sort of different needs. So that like on Mummy's Day that I want to kind of go and and see things and speak to people and all the rest of it. But my daughter puts it, because she's more thinking rather than people, or tasks rather than people. She puts it beautifully. She said, my social battery is running low. I'm not going to be able to do that 2 days in a row, but we can have your day, today, and then tomorrow I'm going to need to just replenish my battery. So I'm like, okay.
And that's good. It's also, they then start using their own language, isn't it? I mean, like you talk in the strength psychology, I talk in disc terms, but it is, I do say to people, so as much as I am an extreme yellow, I'm very outgoing, very people focused, I do also get to the stage where I go, I just don't have the bandwidth for this. When suddenly there's an activity going on somewhere. I mean, how many times do you get put in a WhatsApp group and you go, oh, another one? It's
Yeah,
just like, sorry, Ellie, if you're listening to this, but my cousin Ellie's just set one up for her hen night. And I went, oh, another chat group. And I know we can mute them, but you go, I don't have. Whereas sometimes I'm like, oh, I've got FOMO. I'm missing out. What's going on in that group?
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting, that, isn't it?
it is very interesting. So what's been the biggest aha moment, would you say, that a client's had with you when you're talking about relationship counselling?
Yeah, I wanted to share with you this thing in terms of couples. It's not going to be very clear, so I'll just describe it as well. But you can see what we said before, the thoughts, feelings, behaviors. So as soon as clients come to me, I'm actually trying to get that subconscious process that's coming underneath. So I think my greatest successes in a way is to, even in the intake interview, is to discover the pattern. And that's when the light bulbs can go on, even in just those first sort of 20, 30 minutes. So,
So just for you listeners there, if you're listening rather than watching this, if you imagine the infinity sign, just imagine that infinity sign, because that is the process that Kat's now just going to just talk through.
yes, exactly. So that, yes, infinity, horizontal figure of 8, exactly. So what I'm trying to understand is it will begin, if we begin with, person A, whether that's male or female, their thoughts when they come to me as a couple, or this will be in any kind of relationship, really. It could be in a workplace. You're trying to understand, how is that person, or how am I thinking about myself, really, in relation to that person that you're having a difficult time with. And it will usually be, I'm not feeling, I'm thinking I'm not respected, they're not listening to me, they don't care about me, they don't value me, something like that. And then the feeling will be, well, I feel anxious or uncomfortable in their company, I don't feel very good, or it makes me feel quite cross. Then the behavior might be, you might, depending on, again, the personality, that the strategy you might go for, depending if you're red, you might go for that courage, I'm just going to tell them. Or if you're more relational, or more gently, I'm going to back off and avoid them. But then that behavior is then having an impact on how person B is thinking. So now they will be thinking something about that behavior. That person doesn't like me. I don't feel respected, understood, valued either. So that, and they're then thinking or feeling, sorry, anxious, uncomfortable. And then depending on their personality, they might be more aggressive or withdrawing, which then closes the loop. So then that contributes again to that original thought of person A that said, I don't like them, I don't feel comfortable, they don't respect me, they don't like me, they don't care about me. And it goes round and round and round and round and round. And I hear it was funny at a networking thing. I shared that at networking, and someone said, because they were specialists in like arbitration, I think, and commercial disputes. And he said, yeah, that's exactly what's going on with these two heads of two companies that are just fighting with each other about money. They're both behaving like 6-year-old boys on the playground. And I said, that's what's going on. I don't feel respected by you. You're making me feel this. I'm behaving, well, I don't feel respected by you. Well, I'm feeling this and I behave like this. Well, now you make me feel even less respected. Round and round and round and round and round. So that's why I'd have to get to the root cause of that first. And then people go, yep, that's exactly how I'm thinking, feeling, behaving. I get it now. I see what's going on.
And would you say that that is more common when you've got opposite personality styles as opposed to people who are very similar? Or does it come to core values rather than personalities?
That's an interesting one. And obviously I only see the couples that come to me, or the relationships that come to me. And yes, so I will only see the ones that have got a problem. And most of the time that will boil down to, when I do their strengths, you will see opposites have attracted. So,
Right.
and when we said before about kind of protecting strategies, if person A has gone to perfectionism, overthinking, then they can then be triggered to kind of like, you're not valuing me because you don't understand how I'm trying to do things. But if they've married somebody that's very relational and emotional, which would make sense because that's a lovely fit, a lovely couple fit, we call it in relationship therapy, what's the fit? How do they complement each other? But then this person under stress, I've got a couple coming at the moment, the more relational person maybe has gone for like, I want to talk more, I want to understand more. And the thinker's going like, stop talking at me. You're crowding me. There's too much going on. So they end up, the very thing that brought them together, that complemented them, ends up pulling them apart. So it's like, and there's that lovely book that we both know about, Surrounded by Idiots. You're kind
Yes.
of going, I used to love the very thing that I now hate because I just don't get what you're doing.
Mm. And does it come into that? When we talk about the parent, child, adult triangle, does that come into there as well?
Yes, I do think so, because it lies in that often lies in unresolved kind of trauma. Again, it's tying in what we were saying earlier, that if those protector parts actually still think you're kind of six, then if you're triggered out of adult, which is what you're talking about there, if we're adult to adult, we can be reasonable, listening, we can be curious. Curiosity is really that main word of adult. Like, I'm going to be interested, tell me more about that. But if you're kind of emotionally triggered, you go into either critical parent of like, what's the matter with you, or you go into this stamp your feet child going, like, kind of like, you're not, this is just so unfair, and you're behaving like a 6-year-old. And that's again exactly that pattern. Could be critical parents speaking to a child, and then you become the parent speaking to, like, when you're not right, and then no, it's your problem, no, it's your problem. Like, nobody's listening anymore.
No. And that's why I do what I do, and what's what you do what you do. It's also why I started this podcast, because we cannot affect and we cannot impact on other people's behaviors until we stop and understand our own behaviors and look in the mirror about who we are.
Yes.
Because if I just, and that's, I think, one of the biggest problems with conflict, especially in the workplace, is the fact that you just all think you're right, and actually you haven't realized the impact that you're having on someone else.
Yes. And exactly, when you know your strengths and, yeah, your person, that goes into overdrive, that could be somebody else's real trigger. Like, I know my top strength is enthusiasm, and that can probably be a bit much. So I'm like, all right, calm down, Cat, like, stop, calm down, you're just a bit much. And you've got to be aware of that. And other people love that energy, but other people kind of, I can't always take it, and I need
No.
to understand that. Yeah.
Or a bit like when your daughter says, sorry, but my battery will need to be recharged after I have a day of mum's doing.
Yeah,
And
just stop talking now, stop talking. Okay.
no, we get that. And I know full well, because I do sometimes. I used to just always butt in and tell stories. I used to always not make it about me, but I always had a story to add to whatever anyone was talking about with the situation. And now, when I'm actually with people who are like, that's a real high strength, but
Yeah.
also an irritant if you're with a group of people that don't have that. But even now, as a high I, if I've got people around me that constantly do it, I start pulling away. I start thinking, I can't be with these people. They're exhausting me.
Mm,
And it's probably self-awareness of actually, God, that used
yeah.
to be me. Then
Hmm.
it's like that, oh, I don't want to tell them because I don't want to upset them and get a fear of rejection. And then they don't like me if I tell them that and then it's like, yeah, but if I tell them they're irritating, they won't like that. How do I tell them what it is about that? And running workshops that I do, masterclasses, it's always going like, Cat, I love your enthusiasm. Oh my God, can we just hold that though? Can we just hold that for 1 second? Because
Yeah.
over here I've got Andrew, and I know Andrew has got something that he wants to add in. So we're going to come back to that, Cat, knowing full well that in 5 minutes' time, Kat's forgotten all about that story and she's moved on to something else.
Yes, and I to sort of put it in terms of dialing up and down as well. Once you have that awareness, when I'm being a speaker now, I realize I'll dial up the enthusiasm, obviously depending on the audience and how relevant it is, but then I'll dial it down. And you're absolutely right. And I will say to people, because they might come and say, they'll be aware of kind of, oh, my non-energized or my weaknesses, which I don't really like that terminology. I prefer to say they're all strengths in the system, they're all 24 strengths, but some are more energizing than others. But actually, once you realize your strengths don't need to be too high, if they're only about 4 or 5 out of 10, that's actually enough. And the way I put that is, look, my kind of 4 out of 10 enthusiasm would be somebody else really trying hard from a 10. So it doesn't need to be, it's like chill. And the same with courage or compassion, or these people, like I said to you, that go into people pleasing and never being able to say no. I'm kind of like, your compassion and empathy at 3 or 4 out of 10 is someone else really trying hard. So it's that you're allowed to have it lower, because that's not your only strength. You've got other things here that you can draw on. So otherwise you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
And they find that really helpful. Like, you can dial it up when you need it,
Yeah.
but you must let it go down again. Otherwise, you're into burnout, and nobody wants.
No, we need to be working and living and, just being in our life, in our natural strengths. Because like you say, working in the opposite is either stress and burnout, it's exhaustion and burnout, but it's just not healthy for us. Because it's when I get people that go, oh, I want to be more outgoing, but you're not naturally. So let's look at all of the amazing things it means to not be outgoing and being more reserved, because sometimes I wish I was.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. So Kat, as we come to the end of this conversation, what would you give as a piece of advice to the listeners when they're dealing with relationships and potential conflicts that they're having with others?
That's what I was going to share actually earlier is it, like you said, about self-awareness. So it is about, I like to think if we've all got sort of hooks on us in this analogy. Do you remember that hoopla thing where you would throw a hoop and it would land on a hook?
Yeah.
If you might think of a sort of basic old fair kind of thing. So it is first of all about being aware that if the hoop kind of lands and it is triggering, that tells you something about yourself. So it's actually sort of saying thank you for that, really. Everything happens for us, I always say, not to us. So there's a lesson in everything. There's an opportunity to grow in everything. And if you're feeling triggered over and over again, then that's something to think, this hook is obviously sticking out of me. What is it? And you can, obviously that's what I help people with, acknowledge it and either fold it away or kind of have someone help you take it away completely. Because in that, the only way to stop that cycle that we were talking about, this sort of in the drama cycle, or however we put it, is that self-awareness to go, I am now fully in control of how I think, how I feel, I behave, because I can see what I'm triggered by, that I no longer get triggered by. I choose a different path. I always say curiosity over criticism. Again, about yourself, it really is that word, be curious. What is this teaching me? Either win or I learn, how am I growing? And what am I seeing in someone else's behavior? I'm not responsible for them. They're on their journey and I'm on mine. I'm only responsible for how I think and how I behave. So I hope that answers your question as to my top tip.
No, I think that it's a really powerful conversation that we've had, because it's digging deep into like they say, the psychological side of behaviors rather than just into the personalities, but also then that whole, like you say, that infinity circle. So yeah, amazing. Now, if people want to get a hold of you, Kat, how can they do that? I will take all your details and put them in the show notes, but for a quick one, if they're listening now.
So a quick one on Instagram, I'm at Cat Stay Calm, if they want to find me there. Cat Williams on LinkedIn, and cat-williams.com is my website.
Wonderful. Okay, it's been great talking to you. Thank you for being on. It starts with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
How has this conversation had an impact on you? What have you learnt? What will you do differently? Do leave a review on Apple or Spotify on It Starts With You podcast. And also leave a comment down below. Do also then connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And why not even join the Facebook group It Starts With You and keep the learning ongoing. Thank you for listening.